What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Revival. My name is JJ, and Square Enix, we need to have a talk. So I want to preface this, as is tradition for me, by saying that I could absolutely 100% articulate this much better if I were to have planned it out in advance, written some stuff down, written a whole paper, and then like put it into some cohesive, coherent video and make it look all like you put some footage on it, stuff like that. But I really felt like something like this would be better received just coming, shooting from the hip. Obviously, if you watched my last week's video, I did not talk about Square Enix because I wanted to make a special video dedicated specifically to them. I talked about everything else that happened at E3 this year, so if you're curious as to my thoughts on that, you can go back and check out last week's video. This is just going to be about Square Enix, not only E3, but how I feel they have kind of strayed from what they used to mean to me. As you can see, I have a pile of games here, and this isn't to... I'm not going to like go through one by one and talk about each one like I normally do when I have games on the channel. This is basically like... I am a massive Square Enix fan. I have been for as long as I can remember. Final Fantasy IV on the Super Nintendo, or Final Fantasy II in the US, just blew me away in such a way that it forged how I would play video games for so many years to come until I played the Mass Effect trilogy, which told me, hey, branch out and play stuff other than JRPGs. I still, back then obviously they were known as Squaresoft, I still love them to death. I still see things that they put out that I'm happy with, and I love to see them working on new projects. I love to see, what ideas they're coming up with, and of course, Final Fantasy being my favorite series of all time, I love getting new announcements when it comes to that series. That being said, it's really hard for me to justify still being a fan and loving them just as much as I used to, with the direction that they've gone as a company and where their focus has gone. Here's why the games are here. I want to show you, these are all examples. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just 7 games here. Well, 6 from Squaresoft. But it's look, Breath of Fire, Secret of Mana, which led me to Secret of Evermore, Saga Frontier, Parasite Eve, my second favorite game of all time, Xenogears. And just because I don't want people to say oh, so basically you're saying once Enix came into the picture, no, not at all. I love the Dragon Quest series. It's spectacular. I'm finally playing through those, and they're amazing. I love the game so much. I'm actually on 9. Star Ocean: The Second Story by Enix on the PS1. One of my favorite games on the system. No, it has nothing to do with them coming into the picture at all. That was just to illustrate. I literally used to buy games just because Squaresoft was on the label. I would hear of a new game that came out, nothing about it. Wouldn't even care. If it said Squaresoft on the label, I wanted that game. Now, it's just not anywhere near like that. I totally understand wanting to branch out, draw more people in. You're a business. You want to get more money. You want to get, you want to do new things, innovate, all that stuff, and that includes obviously new IPs. That includes taking old franchises and modernizing them. That includes getting what properties you can and putting your own Square Enix twist on it. It's fine, but when you present yourself like you did at this year's E3, when you put Guardians of the Galaxy as like a 25-minute intro, which takes up pretty much half of your entire presentation, there are so many people like me who, and I acknowledge not everybody, but there are so many people like me who watch your presentation for this kind of stuff. For the games that make us say, like, that's got Squaresoft, that's got Square Enix on the box, that's why I want to get that game. We know Guardians of the Galaxy. We are well aware of what it is. A lot of people weren't a fan of the Avengers either when you made that game. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy licenses and make new games and try to branch out. What I'm saying is you shouldn't put that as your front runner. I think that's a slap in the face to anybody who loved you guys for who you were before. And there's another argument to this as well, which I will get to. But I do not like the direction of not going forward on these heavy story-focused games, these RPGs, these adventures that we all grew up with. I'm not saying you have to re-release all the old ones, although, if you look at the sales numbers, you guys are killing it with these re-releases like Saga Frontier, Legend of Mana, Secret of Mana. I know the remake didn't get the best, wasn't the most well-received, but I guarantee you, like, A, you did make money on that. Like, from what I understand, people were excited to have it. B, if you really had put, like, the love and attention into that game, into that remake that the original got when it first came out, oh my gosh. Like, Final Fantasy VII, perfect example. As much as I would have preferred the original, just update the graphics, turn-based combat, all that stuff, what you guys did with that remake, as far as the mechanics go, and what I was worried about, because I knew it wasn't going to be like that, you really did a great job. Like, the freaking combat is stellar in that game. It's so good. And what I'm not a fan of is changing up the story and, like, switching in these new characters that are kind of, like, just there to make the game longer. The Fate stuff, and my god, I just finished the Yuffie thing, and it was wonderful up until this guy showed up. I don't understand why you can't see where you came from and still try to, like, hold on to some of that. Why everything, you're pushing too much of the new, and it almost seems to a lot of people like myself that you're forgetting about the old. That you just are like, well, it's old, and that's that, leave it in the past. You can still play those games if you want to, absolutely. Can we, though? Because a lot of them aren't getting re-released, and collectors are buying up most of them, which, I'm a collector, so I've got most of these games. But you're also stopping people from, doing ROMs and downloading games and all that stuff, and all we want to do is just play this stuff. We want to experience it, and we want to have experiences like we did on these old consoles. And you're just coming in here with all this new stuff and this flashy nonsense that we don't need. And it's just really frustrating to see all that. Final Fantasy used to be about an adventure with your friends that you went on and to save the world. It was super simple, but my god, the characters were so diverse and the casts were so great and so wonderful. And now, like, while you still have a little bit of that, you're focusing just too much about, I'm going to quote this from, not word for word, but basically what he said. My old podcast, The Frozen North, my friend Ryan from the Suikoden Revival movement had said, like, in regards to Final Fantasy XIII, they spent more time focusing on Lightning looking cool, standing on top of a building wearing a cape with a thunderstorm in the background at night, rather than making a fun, interesting game with a really well-done story and compelling characters. These games were not about cool factor. They were about just the love of telling a great story. And you guys are losing that. And it just really sucks to see. So that's kind of like the main point of my first argument. My second is, honestly, and I know there's probably going to be quite a few people who maybe disagree with me on this, but for me personally, Tetsuya Nomura. I think he's fine. I think he's, got some ideas. I think he's got an audience, absolutely. Kingdom Hearts, honestly, is great. I think he's a really good director, quite frankly. I think, like, when it comes to gameplay and his directing on gameplay, Kingdom Hearts has some of the best battle mechanics that I've seen, period. It's wonderful. But as soon as he gets involved in, like, storylines or, my god, even character designs, like the Yuffie thing that I pointed out, it's just like, why do you have to change things? Why do you have to, like, put your own spin on it when what was there already worked? The formula that Square Enix had, you know, that we all grew up with when it came to them was great, and now you've got this guy who just, you're putting at the forefront of everything, and he should not be there. He should not be one of the headliners on a Final Fantasy game. He does not understand, and I wholeheartedly believe this. This is obviously my opinion, but I am like, I will say this till my dying breath unless something drastically changes in the future. He does not understand that series and what made it so great in the beginning. I think he is one of those people who says, like, well, the Final Fantasy series, you know, it changes and evolves over time and blah, blah. Yeah, absolutely it does. But at its core, it's still about that group of friends going on an adventure to save the world. It's not about something super dark and depressing and let's make it look cool just because that's what's going to draw more people in. Just please keep him away from any sort of, like, story intervention or anything like that. Like, it's just so frustrating to see that. I quite frankly, I loved his older character designs too. Like, Setzer is one of my favorite characters in Final Fantasy VI, and he designed him. You as a company have such an amazing, rich history, and because you're trying to appease the masses rather than, you know, what's worked for you in the past, it really is hard for me to even recognize who you are anymore. And I hate saying that because I still love you to death. And I will continue to play these games, 100%. But that doesn't make me wish that there won't be more of them in the future. I just find it hard to believe that there will be. So, yeah, I realize this video is not going to be for everybody. Not everybody that watches my channel is a massive Square Enix fan or you know, anything like that. But this is just something that I really, you know, I didn't even talk about the demo. Actually, the Final Fantasy, the new demo that just came out, because that ties in with the Nomura thing. Like, I wanted to make a video game about an angry man, or tell a story about an angry man. That's what he said about, you know, designing the main character for that game. I played the demo twice because I wanted to make sure that I was, like, not missing something the first time. And I just wasn't having fun. I honestly, when I first saw the trailer, I was like, oh, neat, cool, I'm excited to dive into this. It's so bland. The combat is fine. It's just very repetitive. And I totally understand this is early on. I'm not excited for it. And I don't know that I may buy it just because quite frankly, I still want to support you guys. I still have this shred of hope that you're going to eventually find your way again. But it's really, really tough to justify it at this point. Yeah. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Hey, share this video for anybody you know that might be a big Square Enix fan. Also, because I would love to hear comments about what people think, and maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe other people look at Square Enix now and say to themselves, this is great, this is what I've always loved about them, they're innovators, and they're, you know, branching out, and this is awesome, it's great. I don't feel that way, personally. But I would love to talk to people about it, either way. So leave me a comment down below. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, you know the drill. And as always, keep on gaming.